welcome to episode 39 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
All right, so we actually just went and saw Suicide Squad tonight, opening night, or sneak preview night, whatever you want to call it. And this is pretty much our, second, immediate reaction, really, to a film. So, first of all, before we get into the nitty gritty, this is a very spoilerific review, I guess you could say, of the movie Suicide Squad. So if you have not watched the movie, watch the movie first, or if you don't even care to watch the movie, which I'd kind of go toward that way, and then you can listen. But otherwise,
this might be the earliest. This might be the earliest we ever said spoilers. We always
I know, but we're gonna spoil the shit out of this thing. But anyway, I just want to do our immediate reactions first. So, what was your immediate reaction walking out of the theater?
Okay, so my immediate reaction was it doesn't belong at 27%, which is what the Rotten Tomatoes rating is right now. The other thought I had was I liked it a little bit better than Batman v Superman, mainly because the main characters in this movie I'm not too familiar with, other than maybe the cartoons and the comics, and that's it.
Okay.
And so there's no, this is the first time we see Deadshot in real life. This is the first time we see Harley Quinn, of course, in real life. Flag, Boomerang, all these guys. Some hit, some missed, and some failed miserably with the new characters that they're trying to bring in, the villains anyway.
Okay.
So that's my immediate reaction, was that it didn't deserve 27%. I liked it a little bit better than Batman v Superman, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's still a DC comic movie that falls short of expectations.
Yeah, anyway. I think everything you just said is, for me, it's pretty spot on. I mean, I remember watching the movie going, oh, Vic's probably thinking this, or he's probably thinking that. I walked out of there, I can't say I was disappointed, because again, this movie's been coming a year and a half ago, and I remember when it was introduced, I was like, okay, whatever. I've already seen this on Arrow, and they did a halfway decent job on it sometimes. So I wasn't really thrilled about this movie. I didn't really care about it that much, and I think I enjoyed it a little bit better that way going into it, especially after learning about all the negative reviews and the reshoots and all this shit. I just went into it going, you know what? I know this is probably going to be a piece of shit, but I'm just going to come in and just hang out and whatever. It's like going to
that should tell you something right there. That the fact that unfortunately, Rotten Tomatoes sets a bar standard, right? For me, regardless of whoever wants to argue what Rotten Tomatoes is or whatever, it sets a bar for expectations. And the only movie that I've never ever looked at Rotten Tomato ratings for was for Star Wars Episode 7, because I didn't want anything. I was so spoiler free of that movie because I wanted a clean slate. And so, but that's because I care about Star Wars so much.
Well, and what if if RT said it was 85%, how crushed would you have been? You'd have been like, oh man, if you didn't see 99% on there, that anything lower than that, you'd have been like, yeah, that, and then it would have put it in your head. This movie, I could give two shits about. I really didn't even care. And so that actually allowed me to kick back a little bit more and watch it for what it was. I mean, I rolled my eyes a bunch of times, but at the end of the day, it was a little more fun than Batman v Superman. It doesn't deserve 27%. If anything, again, I think it's in the mid 50s. Dare I say high 50s, but it's still not a great film. There's a lot of problems. You could tell the reshoots. So anyway, we'll go into it. But yeah, my initial reaction was pretty much on par from what yours is. Just, hey, it was a little bit better than Batman vs. Superman. It's something we've never seen before. It was a little bit fun, a little more light, whatever. So right now on RT, you just mentioned that it's at 27%, which that's really low, man. It's out of 140 something reviews right now. And I don't think it deserves that. I don't.
No, I think my opinion at this point in time is I'm trying to be the reviewer, right? The critic, and this is your job, right? You have to go watch movies. So my thinking is like you've been like you're Charlie Brown and you're trying to kick that football going to see this movie. And every single time you go see this a DC movie, Lucy, right? It's Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucy pulls the fucking ball from you and you fall on your ass and you're just sick and tired of it. So I think I'm this is my I'm just speculating. I have no facts on this whatsoever.
Right.
I'm just speculating because like with Batman v Superman and with Suicide Squad, it did not deserve that low of a rating. But I think people are just tired of like shitty DC Universe movies and they're just like, oh, fuck this again, you know? So, I mean, all the background stuff that were coming out beforehand, I mean, if you don't know about it really quick, apparently DC released a fun trailer, the very first teaser. People loved it. And then DC realized, oh fuck, those are all the jokes we have in the entire fucking movie. We don't have any more jokes. So all the rumors that they were trying to like disband about them pumping in more money to make the movie more fun, they were all fucking true. Because now the reports are coming out that DC filmed two fucking movies
Yeah.
and blended them together because of test audiences liked both. So they blended two fucking different versions of the movie together, basically.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, when Batman versus Superman came out, they scrambled to go back
yeah,
and I
big
mean,
time.
they said they always plan on doing, pickups and stuff, but when you say reshoot, that means they're shooting entire scenes over again, or they're putting brand new scenes in there, and so
Yeah,
I think that's what one of the biggest problems with this movie is that it feels so jumbled, like it is two different movies spliced together like in a patchwork, and and a lot of the problems that Batman versus Superman has, like all the edit, like they filmed one giant movie with all these different scenes and they patched it together in a way that just really was kind of confusing, didn't make any sense. I mean, this was kind of the same way to me. The difference is that they had jokes and little things here and there that kind of kept you entertained, that you're like, okay, whatever. You just kind of like watched
when
it.
we start getting into it, I'll tell you who saved the movie for me.
Okay.
Because if these two people weren't in the movie, I think I would have walked out.
Well, you're not going to like what I'm going to say about one of those people. I think I know who you're talking about.
All right, go ahead.
So anyway, so let's look at the
ahead.
cast, okay? I think, again, like you look at the guys like Russo brothers, they know how to juggle a cast. Whedon, those guys. I mean, sometimes someone falls by the wayside. Like in the first Avengers, it was Hawkeye, but in the second one, they put too much Hawkeye, whatever. But like in this movie, it just felt like there was like they just couldn't figure out how to juggle all these characters, and all of them had backstories and stuff. But of course, you have to like give the two leads the biggest backstories, which would be Deadshot and Harley Quinn.
Well, here's the other problem with this, and this is the same thing that Episode 1 falls into. And Episode 1, I mean Star Wars, is that there's no protagonist in this movie. Who is the protagonist in this movie?
Right.
Who is it? It's not Harley Quinn. It's not Deadshot. Who the fuck is it?
No.
I mean, they get the most screen time, but it doesn't mean they're the protagonist. Whose story is it?
Yeah,
is it Amanda Waller's story?
That's
Maybe?
that's a really good point. I didn't really think about that till you just mentioned that. I know who the antagonist is, but the antagonist is so weak sauce
Oh my
that
God.
I didn't care. I mean, yeah, we'll go into the ending in a little bit, but so what did you think about Will Smith's Deadshot?
Okay. So my initial reaction for Deadshot when I first found out he was going to be put into this film, I was like, oh fuck. Like I kind of grown tiresome of Will Smith's shtick, basically.
Yeah.
And I gotta say he saved the movie for me. I'm not sure what you're gonna say about it, but he kind of saved the movie for me. Yeah, I think he got the most screen time.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like over the top. It wasn't Wild Wild West Will Smith. It wasn't even like bits and pieces of Independence Day Will Smith. It was like middle of the ground. I felt his pain, basically. And here's the thing about Will Smith's Deadshot is that the things that he's going through personally about his daughter, it worked for his character, and it was the first time in any and granted, there's only 3 now DCU universe movies that he's the only one that had any kind of emotion throughout the entire movie. And when I say emotion, like he's not just either just like angry or just standing there like a statue.
He
And that's
wasn't
basically
he
what we've gotten from the last two movies.
he wasn't one note. He was not a
Yes,
he
right.
wasn't a one note character, and some of the other ones in the movie were. We'll get it to that in a minute, but like he actually. I enjoyed his performance. It was a toned down Will Smith, that's for sure. He wasn't over the top and crazy and like that's what I'm talking about. You know, none of that crap. It was a pretty decent performance, I thought.
Right.
Um, and if anybody was a protagonist, I guess he could have been. They should have put him as the protagonist. Really, they should have put it through his eyes. That would have been interesting. But I felt for his storyline more than anyone else's. And I thought about you when I was watching that too, because you have a daughter, you have two daughters, and I mean I have a son. But when they were doing that whole thing, I was like, oh man, that's going to hit people right in the heartstrings. You know that have kids. That's a really good device.
Well, I mean, it made me care for Deadshot, which is a big thing because I don't care about any character so far in, any DC movies of recent,
Yeah,
since Man of Steel. So ever since Zack Snyder took over, I don't give a shit about anybody. Like, I don't care. Superman died, great. I don't give a fuck. Hey, Batman's gonna die by Bane. I don't care.
right.
When they showed the whole, like, Will Smith pulled it off. So for me, he was number one as saving the movie for me because if you got anybody else that didn't have his acting chops in that movie, the movie would have suffered big time
Yeah, I think so
because
too.
there's a lot of other people in this movie that are just wasted in this movie.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So number two for you, got to be, is it Harley Quinn? Am I just
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
a
I
stab?
was I was nervous about Harley Quinn because this is the first time we get to see Harley Quinn on screen, and her outfit. Oh my God, they fucking sexed her up like no other. Like, I mean, she wears like basically a bikini bottom, and like basically if she didn't have like a red bra underneath, because you get to see that in the movie,
Hmm.
you would see her nipples in the whole movie, like because she had basically a see-through shirt. She must have
Right.
been freezing her ass off towards the end of the movie because it's raining.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I don't. I guess they went with like a worse version of the Arkham Knight version because Arkham Knight, the video games, not well, the whole Arkham series basically, Harley Quinn's kind of sexed up a little bit more so than from the comic, from the cartoon. Anybody who's not a big comic book fan knows that Harley didn't come from the comic books; she came from the animated series.
Yes.
So she's like the Arkham cartoon, not cartoons, the Arkham video games took it to a whole new level of kind of sexing her up just a tiny bit. But in this version, I mean, she's barely dressed. So that scared me from watching the trailers. But I gotta say, she kind of won me over. So I really enjoyed her version of Harley Quinn. And she, just like Will Smith, she really wasn't just one note.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we'll get into this person next. But unfortunately, the person she was playing off of a lot of the times, or a few of the times, fell short big time. So,
Yeah, I felt the same way. So let me give my take on Harley Quinn. It's different from yours, a little different.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so I loved her in the animated series. I think she was one of the best things in the animated series, next to Mark Hamill's
Yes.
Joker. Fantastic. However, I felt like in the first quarter, first third, probably the first act, I was like, okay, I like Harley Quinn. She's cool. Then as the movie went on, I'm sorry, man, but like I started to get really annoyed with her shtick. Like it felt to me that she was trying to be like the animated character way too much. Like I thought she started
When did
sound
what started it?
she
What
started
was the turning
sounding
point for
like it.
you?
Stuff like, breaking the window and going like, "Ah, that's what bad guys do," or we're bad guys or whatever. Like that line that I've seen 100 times in the trailers, and they kept it in the movie for whatever reason. It's so badly done. And a lot of times what would happen was, and I noticed this, it got really annoying, but they would have an action piece and then a beat, and then everything would pause and be quiet, and then she'd like throw a one-liner out. And it, for me, I don't know, whatever it was, dude, every line that she said just fell flat. And then like
Mm,
her accent was very much like the animated character.
right.
And it's just, I don't know, man. It just felt like she was imitating that character. There was a few times that she said something that I was like, oh, that's Harley Quinn. Like when she said Mr. J, I got all tingly. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
But then, like, as the movie went on, I just felt like, oh wow, it felt like those reshoots were real. Like we need to put more one-liners from Harley Quinn in here, and like so something would happen, and then it would just everything would stop, and she would say some line. I don't remember half of them now, but she would say something, and I would just like cringe and go like, that wasn't very funny, or that was just really out of place, or that kind of thing. But I thought her look was pretty good, and I thought again the first third of the movie, I thought like she was great, and then as the time ran on, I just kind of like I don't know, I kind of grew tired of her shtick, and I just hope that if they do a Harley Quinn movie, that they kind of I guess it's just like the talking aspect of it or something like that. It just sounded like she was imitating the cartoon. That's just me. I don't know. Maybe just I'm just nitpicking, but like everybody that I've like talked to or been reading about loved her character the most, and that's cool. Like I didn't hate her character. I just thought that it wasn't up to, and she had the hardest job I think out of anybody,
Yeah.
more so than even Jared Leto. She had the hardest job. She had to sell you this character that everyone loves and has never seen live action before. So I think
Yeah.
in that, I think she did a decent job.
I don't think I picked up on the accent that it was like straight out of the cartoon. I didn't actually mind that too much because that's really your only iteration of Harley Quinn's voice, right?
Mhm.
We actually have a version of Harley Quinn that set the bar. Like that's where she came from. She came from the animated series. There was nothing like that.
Where is
So
the character from though? Is she from the Bronx or from the South? Where is she from?
wait,
Like, why does she talk like Why does she? It's
well,
almost
she's
as
from Metropolis, which is or not. I'm sorry, not Metropolis. Gotham, which is like kind of Chicago-ish
okay.
type. But
It
I'm
just
not sure that's where they got that accent
it
from,
it
like in
just
the animated series.
Yeah, it just felt like me, dude. Like this is what I attribute it to. Like, let's say they make a live action movie of Betty Boop, and she walked around going ooh, 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 Betty Boop, like that. I'd be like fucking annoyed. I'd be like, oh my god, like
I thought they did do
just
that.
some things just doesn't translate sometimes completely well. I don't know, but again,
Yeah, I'm gonna
I'm
have to
nitpicking.
disagree with you on that part anyway.
Totally cool.
I completely I see your point on the when the action stopped, she would say a line. It was like a formulaic almost.
Hmm.
You could almost foretell when it was basically any time there was like an uncomfortable silence, you knew Harley was going to say something.
Right,
It was
right.
like her cue to say
Totally.
something. So
That exactly.
so I can see that. I didn't mind the accent. I kind of liked it because it reminded me of the cartoon and took me back to the cartoon. So that was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Um, but
The Mr. J
yeah,
line hit for me big time. But
the
like
problem I had with that was the first time she said it was when she was still Harleen, not Harley. That I had a
uh
problem with.
yeah, that's
The
true.
first time she fucking says it is before she turns to Harley.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
that's the
You're
problem I
right.
had. That's the
You're
problem I
right.
had with that. But let's skip ahead because
Okay,
we
let's
can't
skip
talk
ahead.
about Harley without talking about the Joker. So
Yes.
you start on the Joker this time. What's your take on Jared Leto's Joker? Because oh my fucking god, I couldn't stand any of the reports coming out of anything that they were talking. Oh, Jared Leto's like they almost like wanted you to just remember how dedicated like Heath Ledger was for the Joker and wanted us not to worry about Leto's version of the Joker.
Okay, so
So
that was the biggest problem that I had from day one. And you and I have talked about this offline, online. When they started talking about Jared Leto a year and a half ago, saying like, "Oh my God, he's the definitive Joker," like you have nothing to worry about, like all this stuff. I kept thinking to myself, why do you even need to say that? Like why? Like now my expectations are so freaking high that anything less than that, I'm going to be pissed off. And I watched the movie now. I wasn't pissed off, but I was a little bit like, I mean, this is okay. I mean, he looked okay, but some of the stuff that he was doing was like very cartoonish. And I hated that. I,
okay.
some of the things that he did was okay, but some of the lines and some of the things were a little over the top. And some people would argue and say, well, Joker is over the top guy. Like that's what it is. But yeah, but like when you're trying to like they're trying to do this grounded in reality bullshit. And so he for me was like way over the top. He doesn't hold a candle to Heath Ledger's Joker. Now,
No.
I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have compared the two if they just would have shut up and released the
Right,
movie.
exactly.
Released the movie, and I would have watched it and said, "Hey, yeah, he did his own take on Joker, awesome." But the fact that they kept comparing it and kept saying like, "Oh, it's in good hands. He's amazing. You're not going to believe it. We fucking
He's so
blew our minds."
dedicated.
Yeah, so dedicated. He was in character all the time. I was like, why do you need to go out of your way to say this so much? Because you built this thing up in my mind so big that when I went and saw it, it could be nothing but disappointing. So anyway, it is what it is. I mean, Joker's now back, and I like Jared Leto. I don't know, meh for me. So
Okay, so here's my take on the Joker. I fucking hated it, and here's why. Take the makeup off. Take the makeup off. Completely take the makeup off. Give him a different name, and he's basically somebody from like a gang leader from Mad Max. That's all he is.
oh
And
shit, that's yeah, totally.
not to mention that he's a gang leader in this one, right? We've seen this version. We've seen the mobster like Joker. That's Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
So we've seen this characterization of the Joker, but Leto takes it in a different direction because I mean he's got like fucking gold chains and shit. Like he's got fucking he's got a grill like in his mouth. So I don't know what the fuck this version of the Joker is. It's like almost like a 2016 version of Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Well, yeah, but like played by Jared Leto, it might as well have been played by John Leguizamo because like that's all I kept thinking about was like,
that's good, yeah, yeah.
he was the Jesse Eisenberg of this movie. It was really kind of annoying.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Margot Robbie to have to put up with his antics because I didn't see any chemistry between the two.
None. Oh, it was like unnerving. It was like really uncomfortable. Actually, it wasn't
Right.
sexy at all or anything like that.
I mean, Margot Robbie does probably as good as a job as you probably could under the circumstances of the character that she had to portray. And I'm sure, like, if she gets a second crack at it, she'll do better. But oh my fucking god, I gotta watch Jared Leto again. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta watch Jared Leto. So here's the thing. So if you want to compare Heath Ledger, let's compare Heath Ledger to this. Heath Ledger basically could have got like equal billing for The Dark Knight, right?
Right.
Basically could have got equal billing to Christian Bale. The Joker is in this movie for what, 8 minutes probably total, if even
Probably.
that.
Yeah.
You had to get into character so fucking bad you were sending dead pics to people to be in a movie for 8 minutes.
Oh, not just that, but like on online now, they're saying like there's millions of scenes with the Joker on the cutting room floor and all this stuff. And I'm like,
so
and
we'll
I'm
get
thinking,
another like version of it.
right, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, Joker. This movie has nothing to do with the Joker. Joker's not.
Yeah.
He's just a foil. He's just somebody that just kind of pops in and out. And we'll talk about
He got
cameos
second
later
billing
on.
in this movie. He got second billing in this
That's
movie at the end credits.
ridiculous. That's
It
ridiculous.
was Will Smith's name first, and then I believe it was Jared Leto next.
That's ridiculous. Sorry. He shouldn't have even be credited, to be honest with you, or be way at the bottom. It's not about him. He's just kind of
No.
like the. I mean, it was. I knew from the beginning he'd have a cameo kind of thing, but they extended it a little bit beyond that. Which we'll talk about the cameos a little bit later. Let's get to so let's just blow through the other cast members. There's really not a whole lot to talk about them, but like I thought the look of the Enchantress was cool, but like man,
I hated it, dude. I hated it.
they brought
She was
her
basically wearing 3 pieces of clothing.
I don't know,
3
like
pieces of clothing.
like the beginning when they first introduced her and she like popped out of there and popped back with files from Iran.
Oh,
or
that's the
something
look
like
you're
that.
talking about?
That
That's
was the
look you're
part
talking
was
about.
cool. Now at
Okay.
the end, the Enchantress looked like crap, and she was doing that weird psychedelic like hippie dance and shit. And I was like, "What is
You mean
this?"
she was basically the chick from The Ring?
"Oh yeah," but doing a hippie dance, just like
Yeah.
dancing there. I was like, "What the fuck? This is ridiculous! Like this is the worst bad guy ever."
Yeah, it almost made me. It was like almost one of those like rip-offs of like Indiana Jones like type of a villain, like
Right.
the Temple of Doom. If somebody like this wrote the Temple of Doom, this is the bad guy we would have gotten.
No, totally. And then like Kali Ma. No, and then like out of nowhere, she has a brother. like all of a sudden. And I was like, okay, so she has a brother, so what? And
Yeah,
then
this is probably one of the worst. Like, this is probably one of the worst bad guys ever. Like, it was so
ever.
forced and out of place.
It was so bad. It was so bad. Um, and then the other thing that bothered me, why did they? And again, this is like nitpicking, but why did they have to be in that city to destroy the world? Why couldn't they just? She could teleport anywhere she wants. It's like, hey, I'm fucking out of here. Teleport to
Yeah, I don't know
the
why.
middle of the jungle.
I don't know. I don't know why she picked that random black dude in the bathroom out of nowhere.
You're kind of cute. Let's go. You're my
Yeah,
brother.
like I'm like, where the fuck did that? Like, is that? I
That
thought
was her
in the
brother.
beginning. No. The thing in the fucking, the thing in the jar was her brother. That black dude in the bathroom was just some random black dude because I thought in the beginning like
Oh
he was like
yeah.
related to Amanda Waller or something.
Oh yeah.
But like, and then like it never came out like who it was. I'm like, well, why did he choose? Why did she choose him? Like out of everything, like I thought she was like taking over somebody Amanda Waller knew
Oh
and like
yeah, that
holding
was kind of
her
confusing.
accountable.
So she just picked some dude that just took a dump and like
Yeah,
you
just
come with me.
basically in yeah, just basically in Midway City, and that's why it was in the city. Now, my problem with with that whole thing is that so they mentioned Superman. They name drop Superman a ton of times.
He's
They talk
dead.
about
Yeah.
They talk about Batman, right? They're
Hmm.
talking about all these metahumans, right? Because nowhere do they mention Wonder Woman. Because like, don't tell me satellite footage didn't show Wonder Woman fucking fighting there, right? And the Batman either. So this whole thing is basically destroying the East Coast because you see the map of that happening, right?
Right.
Where the fuck is the Justice League there? Like
Yeah.
they just like because okay, I'm skipping ahead because like we're talking about Enchantress and like the fact that this is a like this is an end of the world type thing, right? That's why the Suicide Squad's there, right? Bruce
Right.
Wayne shows up at the end of the fucking movie, right? In the mid credit scene. So don't tell me he didn't fucking know about it. Did he just take the day off? Like he was just like, fuck it. Like I'm gonna put this team together, but you guys take care of Midway City. I don't give a fuck about that place.
Yeah.
You know
It
what I mean?
was
Like it
really
made no
bizarre.
sense.
It made absolutely
Because
no sense.
once they told me it was like they're gonna destroy the world, I'm like, okay, so now you're building this universe where there are actually good guys to stop this shit. And this movie is based on the premise that we're gonna send in the Suicide Squad where nobody else can do it, but you're making a big fucking like production out of this because there's a giant ring of garbage in the sky, like Will Smith said.
Giant ring
And
of garbage.
like this the quote unquote half Justice League, because right now it's just Batman and Wonder Woman, like couldn't go and stop this. Like especially Wonder Woman, like she could have just flew there and stopped it by herself.
Yeah. Immediately.
So
Which would
that
have been
I had a
fucking cool.
major problem with that. It would have been fucking awesome, but like, but, but like that it doesn't make sense to me. Like I can't stand the end of the world stuff when you're trying to build a universe like this when there's actual good guys to stop the end of the world shit.
Okay.
Like everybody knew what was going on there.
So that's the thing. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but to the plot still confuses the hell out of me. Like I understand that she wants to put a team together that are expendable. Essentially, they have nothing to lose. Put a bomb in their head. If they fuck up, blow them up. If they try to escape, blow them up. If they mess up, you tell them, well, blame it on them. If they make it or survive and fix the problem, hey, slap or pat ourselves on the back and put them back in jail, kind of thing. I get that. But all of us, like, they're talking about like supernatural and all these like threats or whatever, like metahuman threats, and they end up going against one of their own, like the Enchantress, which I thought having her heart, you control her. I mean, for one thing, that reminded me of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, like when they had
Oh yeah.
what's his name's heart, they controlled him. So they
Right,
controlled
right,
her,
right.
but she somehow was able to there was some fucking supernatural loophole or something. So she was able to escape and, resurrect her
Basically,
brother and all that bullshit.
she tried to get her heart when Amanda Waller was sleeping, which didn't work because she had it in like some kind of security case. Then for some reason Amanda Waller just has like her brother's ashes in like a closet.
Yeah.
like not protected. And
Let's
so
don't
she,
put that. Let's don't protect that.
yeah,
Let's and
so she gets that, and then her brother, after picking some random black dude in a bathroom, comes back and like fixes her heart or patches her heart back up or where her heart should be, so that it doesn't really matter. And
she's
then
she's essentially Mr. Smith from Matrix. She just keeps touching people and turning them into fucking
right, yeah,
blobs.
exactly.
Or she's
And
Loki,
then
you know.
And then all of a sudden, she's like, there's a little bit of backstory between the conversation between the brother and the sister that humans used to worship them as gods or whatever, which we don't really get into that at
Well,
all.
centuries
So then all of a
before,
sudden,
yeah.
yeah, and then all of a sudden she's like, well, instead of like showing them that we're gods and like let's try to win them back or whatever the fuck, let's make a machine, which she just learned what machines are 5 minutes ago. Let's make a giant machine to kill them all. Like she spent all that time trying to make a machine, and she probably could have just wiped off everybody city by city if she was just doing what she was doing.
Right.
Like she could have just went to like, okay, let's turn everybody into like an army in Midway City. Okay, now let's move on to Gotham. Let's move on to Metropolis.
Or if she wants to
this world,
continue, or if she just wants to blow the whole world up like she planned on doing, go to somewhere that's abstract and would take forever for people to get there, and then blow the world up from there. Yeah, she could teleport anywhere she wants.
She could have teleported like 300 feet below the surface of the Earth, and it would have taken him forever to get to her.
We've spent like 15 minutes on the Enchantress.
Yeah,
someone I could care
because
about.
the plot doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, right.
It's almost like the Dark Knight Rises when it took them like 8 months to try to blow up Gotham. Like their whole intention was trying to blow up Gotham, and they were gonna do it anyway. So why the fuck did you wait the 8 months?
Right. Just do it right now.
Yeah, just so Batman can fix his back just from like heroin addict like chiropractor in a fucking pit.
It's a really glaring plot holes. It reminded me of Batman v Superman when Superman took like 20 minutes to fly from Metropolis to Gotham.
Like, yeah, like what the fuck did you do? Stop the fucking Starbucks and there was a long line and they got your name wrong. Like, is there a schmark? Is there a schmark cunt in here for a latte?
Yeah, it's my cunt here. Yeah, it's like yeah. That was terrible. Well, move on to some of the other ones. So Boomerang felt like,
oh my god, Boomerang's just fucking useless.
He has a boomerang. What are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna
Why
do?
didn't they kill that guy in the beginning? Because there's some Indian guy, like I forget his name in the movie.
Slipknot. Yeah.
Fucking Slipknot like comes and I was like, oh cool, they got an American Indian guy, and he's fucking dead 2 seconds later.
Yeah, they blew his head off for like what he was trying to like zip away with a zip line. He's like, bye. And the guy instead of like shooting him with a dart, he's like, I'll just blow you up. Like, whatever. You're trying to escape. I'm just gonna blow you up.
So this is the first incarnation of Boomerang, right? So he only throws a boomerang once, and it actually only comes back to him only one time. Every other time it hits the guy, and it doesn't come back. Like the first time you see him throw his boomerang, it just knocks the guy out or kills him, and then he doesn't even pick the boomerang back up.
You don't see him like, what kind of sense? Like, you throw it, they duck, it goes past them, and then you got to wait for it to come back and hit him in the back of the head. Like, it's such a retarded character. But anyway, back to Slipknot really quick. I don't want to spend too much time, but it reminded me of the Running Man when like the guy just starts taking off and then his head blows up, and Arnold's like, no,
well, his head doesn't
Chico!
blow up in this one. It's actually the thing that they inject him with goes into their heart.
Right.
So like his heart blows up basically.
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, did they not think like, hey, you do realize like we finally get an American Indian into this, comic book shit, and we're gonna kill him in like 2 minutes, right? Maybe we shouldn't do that.
American Indians are like rolling a tear now. Like, what the hell?
But like they picked like the worst thing for him to do. Like Amanda Waller is going through this giant list of like all these cool things, right? Like Deadshot never misses, Harley Quinn's just fucking psychotic, Enchantress can do all this cool stuff, Killer Croc can do all this shit, and then they introduce like Slipknot at the very end, And the way that she describes him is he can climb up anything. And I'm like, what? That's his fucking like power.
He can play blackjack like nobody's business. I mean, it's such a bad. It
he's
sucks,
major.
man.
He can really. He's like he can do reverse splunking really well.
Yeah,
like, that's what he can do.
It's just. I mean, they really crapped on the American Indians in this. I mean, recently it's been.
There's no fucking reason for him to be in this movie. There literally is no reason.
No,
there's no reason.
Usually they're messing with the the Asian culture, and this time it's American Indian. But speaking of the Asian, what was her name? Katana. I was like,
Yeah.
did you just get out of the Phantom of the Opera? Like, did you just climb out of Tarantino's Kill Bill set? Like, why?
That was pretty. Well, her mask was pretty close to the comic books or real life version of the comic books.
Okay.
But
they did nothing with her character either.
No, but she killed a lot of people. The Slipknot just fucking died. He shows up and dies.
He climbs real good. He didn't climb
Apparently
fast
not,
enough.
because he was trying to get away. And you get to see what he does. Like, he climbs really well. He shoots this thing up into the sky, and then all of a sudden he just fucking dies. And they don't even get him down. He's just hanging there
He
dead.
just hangs there. They're like, we got to go. Yeah, it was so... I understand. I mean, they needed, like, a character to die, but it makes
To
more
show,
sense.
like, yeah, to show,
get
like,
to
the
know
thing
the
was-
character for a while and then kill him off, and it has a big impact, like they did with Diablo. And Diablo was the other character that was
I liked
was
him.
fairly interesting. I actually like that actor. He's in a lot of stuff, but he was pretty interesting. And in the bar scene, you actually get his backstory, and you feel really bad for him. And then
That bar scene was pretty good, actually.
yeah. And then he, later on, he sacrifices himself. And that whole scene of trying to get the brother in the corner to blow him up made no fucking sense. I'm like, why don't you just throw the bomb at him and then detonate it? Why do you have to plant it under the corner of the building and then have the fire dude like push him in the corner? Like, it just it was just a weird, made no sense kind of thing that they did. And all it did was kill the guys that went underwater. And killed Diablo too, Only Killer Croc made it, and which was a weird scene. Like, he's like, I'm going with you guys, right? And he goes down there, and they're like struggling with him underwater. That was a really weird scene. It didn't make any sense with the C4 and all that.
It was the army people, the changed army people under there attacking Croc.
Yeah,
it was filmed. I saw it on IMAX, so.
Oh, okay. It was hard to see. I didn't understand what was happening, but
yeah, it was those like army, like,
okay,
I don't even know, those bubbling army people.
Essentially, it killed all those guys, and then killed Diablo, who I liked. I thought, oh, cool. But they also kind of like, his scene in the movie would have been awesome if they hadn't have showed it in the trailer. Like, there's a part in it where Will Smith is egging him on, and then he just unleashes, fucking just kills everything. And then he throws that line out of like, oh, okay, I was just trying to get you there. I'm sorry, man. And it kind of fell really flat. I was like, fuck, I saw that in the trailer and thought that was really funny, but it didn't
That's
work.
That's the part where they could have had a one-line quip right there.
Totally. They could have done something different.
At the end of the movie, when he changes into actually Diablo, like,
that
nobody says anything. Nobody says anything.
No.
And I'm like, that could have been a scene that you could have said. Like, Will Smith could have said something like, I didn't mean to take you there that bad, or something like that.
Yeah, or like, holy shit, is anyone looking at this? Like, no, yeah, they're just like staring at him, like, push him in the corner. I'm like, dude, dude just turned into fucking fire. Like, why isn't anyone like
he
surprised?
He actually just turned into the devil. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
And your reaction is just push him into the corner.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know they're seeing crazy shit here, but a guy just turned into the fucking devil. So
right, and then
anyway.
he lost his power started draining, and then he died.
Yeah. I did like the guy who played Diablo, and thinking back on it now, the other person. Well, let's finish off with Killer Croc, because holy shit, did he look stupid.
He didn't look good. He reminded me of like the Thing in the first Fantastic Four. I was like, this doesn't look good.
Okay, he looked fine until he took his shirt off. to go underwater
Yeah.
at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I
and here's
agree.
why. Because he got this like he's got this ton of prosthetics on his head, right? And
Mhm.
he's like just big and menacing. And then he takes his shirt off and he's got these tiny fucking arms. He's a giant head with tiny
He
arms.
did.
I
It's
mean,
like
the dude in real life is like, pretty muscular, but when you put that many prosthetics on your head and you got a giant fucking head, your arms need to match that size.
yeah, it
So,
reminded me of like toddlers, the big head little body syndrome.
yeah,
It didn't
like it
look
was
right.
it was not it was when he took his shirt off, it was like Michael Keaton in Batman. So like so like I love Michael Keaton in Batman, right? But there's that one scene when you see when the Batman comes to save Vicky Vale, and then like because he's got that big cowl, right? So but you see the part where he fires the grappling hook, and then he holds onto the grappling hook, but then you see Michael Keaton's like tiny arm next to his big head.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
do you remember that part? Yeah,
I
that's
do.
what that reminded me of. This it was like, oh, Killer Croc looks he because until he took his shirt off like that, I was like, oh, he looks pretty good. And then he took his clothes off to go underneath. I'm like, well, Killer Croc's got like regular human arms. Like,
Yeah,
he's just
maybe
got
they
a
try to
giant
make
head.
it. Maybe they try to make it like that because crocodiles have tiny arms, just like T Rexes, But still,
So dumb.
it
And
didn't
then
look good. It didn't look good.
it didn't look good the way he got into the water either.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was
Remember
really
that crawl?
silly. He's like, let me crawl in here. Yeah, I crawled in like a croc. It looked really stupid, silly.
Yeah, it would have looked fine if he actually looked like Killer Croc. But he was just a dude with a giant head.
Yeah. Rick Flag and Amanda Waller.
Well, let's
So
go Rick Flag first.
okay.
I was actually surprised that they got this guy. He was in this really great TV show called The Killing.
The Killing. Love that show.
Loved him
He's
in
so
that.
fucking
Did
good in
not.
that.
Yeah, he's really good in that. I freaking loved him in it. I did not like him in RoboCop. Um,
No.
so I was kind of surprised. He actually took over for Tom Hardy, who I believe was stuck filming The Revenant when
Damn
this
it.
when he
Damn
got
it.
this role.
Damn it.
So I think that was the big thing for him, was taking over Tom Hardy's spot in this.
Yeah.
I could see Tom Hardy in this role. I probably would have. Not that the guy who plays Rick Flag is bad, but it's Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Um,
He would have
so
elevated
he wasn't as bad as I thought he was going to be. I kind of giggled a little bit when he crushed the heart at the end because of the way that he was standing.
it.
It kind of or like kneeling over. It was kind of funny. The way he did it, I don't know why it made me laugh. I think it was like just the way he was standing and he crushed the heart.
The way he
the way
looked,
was holding
the
it.
way he looked was funny, but also the heart itself wasn't like it was like a rock. It was like a bunch of straw, and he just like crumbled it like really easy, just like
Like dust. Yeah,
Yeah,
like like ruined a stress ball or something.
right, right. I was thinking like, oh man, they're gonna like have this big to do when they crush the heart. I mean, it was really like pretty lame. It just kind of like limped along. I was like, oh,
I
that's
did, yeah. So I didn't mind him at all. He was not like as bad as the other people. I like the guy who plays Rick Flag.
yeah. Kinnaman,
I would have
I think his name is.
really, yeah, that's it. I would have really liked to have seen Tom Hardy in it, but he wasn't really bad in it. So
Yeah.
he was the least of the problems in this movie.
Yes.
And moving on to Amanda Waller, she fucking rocked.
Yeah, Viola Davis. Shit, dude. When she looked
Yeah.
up at those eyes at you to burn through your skull, you're like, no problem, no problem, ma'am. I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah, when she fucking just killed those civilians,
That was
I was like,
fuck.
holy fuck.
That was crazy.
I was like, oh, that's Amanda Waller right there. Like,
Yeah, to the 10th degree.
So I got to take that back. I forgot about her for some reason because she's like missing from the second half of the movie. She
Yeah.
just shows up randomly at the end. They don't even show her getting freed from like that, like being upside down and shit.
Right.
She just shows up at the end with the cell phone that's working.
And
Like,
he's just like, you're oh, right. It's like, oh, they didn't take the cell phone. Like, it's still
yeah,
working?
exactly. Like they left you with the cell phone. Like,
So,
so it survived the helicopter crash and you fighting all those people.
right. And you didn't drop your cell phone. I thought it was funny. I did think it was funny when Margot Robbie, when Harley Quinn did say, like, that's one hell of an app. I thought that was funny. But it was said so quickly that it was hard to hear. And nobody laughed in my theater. I giggled. I thought, oh, that's funny. But other than that, I don't know. That's stupid fun.
Yeah, Viola Davis, really great in this movie. And I'm surprised I
strong.
didn't hear anything coming. I'm surprised I didn't hear anything about her like coming out of the movie because everybody's talking about Will Smith and and Margot Robbie, but
But see,
Viola Davis does really well. She's a good Amanda Waller.
I think for us, because we analyze movies and all that shit so much, you could tell the good actress from the bad, and like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
put her up against any other person in that movie, I don't even care, even Ben Affleck, and she's just fucking menacing. She's awesome, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, so the plot, I think we talked a little bit about the plot. Basically, Task Force X is what she was calling it, to stop
Hmm.
threats using expendable characters. Whatever. This is not a plot driven movie. This is a character movie, so I didn't really like care. I wasn't invested in the plot or whatever. It wasn't like, oh, it better be a good plot or whatever. I was
Well, here's
invested
my problem
in
with
the
it was that
characters.
here's my problem with the whole thing. Like there's a montage in the beginning of her saying, "Here's the people she got." Right. That part I really liked. I liked her going through everybody. The problem that I had with the movie was like there was no training, there was no this is how we're going to fight together, there was no anything. So basically they just stuck six people out there with abilities and just said, "Let's go do this." Like there's no nothing. So like how are they going to follow orders? How are they going to do any of this stuff? So that's the problem I had with it was that there was no like beforehand well like training. And when I mean training, like I don't mean like they're gonna put them through boot camp and shit like that. But there, for me, there was like nothing there that was like, well, they're not really a team. You just this is just a bunch of people you just got and force
Right.
them to do this shit. And I get that you had to force them to do this stuff, but I don't know. I don't know if it's nitpicking or not, but it fell short for me of like, okay, how do these people know how to like fight together?
Well,
There was no like wow, holy fuck moment where people were using each other's powers, you know? Like there was none of that. So
right, and that's something that we haven't mentioned Marvel at all throughout this whole podcast, but that's something they kind of do really well. Is when they put the team together and they work off each other, they do that really well in their movies. The end scene of Civil War is like a big deal, but the um, yeah, they did one thing with Deadshot. They had him, take the gun and shoot, the targets and all that stuff, and it was like, you know, you knew right off the bat that he was a good shot, and they kind of like showed that, but it just felt really lackluster to me. Like we've seen that a million times. Like I just watched Lethal Weapon the other day, where Riggs is like this master shot, and he makes the happy face on the target from like
right, yeah,
really
yeah.
far away. Yeah. So when they did that scene in this, I mean, the only thing that was kind of cool is he kept hitting the same point over and over again to the point where like it made a hole through. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it wasn't anything like spectacular, like holy shit moment, like Wanted shooting the wings off flies and shit. It was just kind of like ho
Hmm.
hum, like whatever. But he was the only one they kind of focused on. They didn't show like Killer Croc doing something cool or Slipknot, walking up walls because he climbs well. I mean, the Enchantress, they did one thing with her where she poofed out and poofed back with files that the guy has wanted for years or whatever. Well, let me ask you a question. The Enchantress has been around for like apparently thousands of years. She was probably some godlike thing. How does she fucking know like martial arts? Like, how come everybody like knows how to like do karate and stuff and like fight? It
I don't
that
know.
doesn't.
Apparently she was better. She was better with swords than Katana was.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't make any sense,
Here's the best part of that entire fight scene. Here's the best part of that entire fucking fight scene, right? So she spends all that time hand to hand combat everybody, right?
Hmm.
While she's trying to destroy the world behind her. And then Killer Croc surprises her, throws her into like some like column or whatever,
Hmm.
and then she flashes away back. They all line up into this like cool suicide shot uh, for the film,
Hmm.
and then Enchantress is like, "Forget this. I'm tired of this," and like takes all their weapons away. And I'm like, "Oh my god, you had this fucking power!" Like in the cartoon, that would never fucking happen. Like
No,
she would have went from the very beginning
took the guns.
and just yeah,
Or
from the very beginning, she would have been like,
I'm
"Fuck
just
this."
going to stare at my brother being, hurt by Diablo. I'm just going to stare and watch this happen. And
Yes, exactly.
and
Before
pretty
that,
much everyone else sat there and watched it happen too. They didn't like shoot at her or do anything, while she was being distracted. I mean, it was just a very
yeah. Where was her?
poor scene.
Where was her army then? Like you protected like broken cars in the street, but the big giant machine you want to destroy the world with, there's no army men there.
No, like four guys, and they
Yeah,
killed
4.
him right away.
Yeah,
Which
like
which apparently
Jesus.
they weren't that hard to. They were basically ashes. They just hit him in the head and they die. You know, it
But
wasn't
still, like they're distractions for like the big brother to kill somebody. You know,
right. Yeah, that was just it was just again.
maybe
It's
they ran
just
out of fucking money. I don't know.
poor. Yeah, well, too many reshoots. Um,
Yeah.
so they did a lot of flashbacks. You know, some of them I didn't mind so much. Other was like dragged way too
In the
long.
beginning, it worked because she was putting the team together and giving their background story, so that worked. But then they were doing it throughout the whole movie, especially with Harley Quinn and Deadshot.
Right, and they stole some like Scarlet Witch shit too. You know, they she got in their heads and they were showing them what they really want. You know, and
Yeah,
so they were
yeah.
that kind of thing. So I guess it's a little different than Scarlet Witch, but still they were getting it in their head. But
But that kind of
yeah,
came out of nowhere, though.
it did.
That whole
It
scene
did
came out of
because I'm
nowhere.
like, why can't you did this from the beginning? Why are you just now showing these powers? You
Yeah,
know,
you should have done. You should have done. You know what they should have done is they should have had Enchantress doing that from the very beginning because obviously she knows that the team is there. She should have been like dropping those like dreams into their heads the whole time so that she could turn them against each other at the end. That would have been better.
yeah, that would have been a lot better. That's a good point. But yeah, anyway, so like what I liked about the movie the most, I think for me was the bar scene when all the action was kind of like at a halt and they were there like talking as characters. I liked that a lot. I think most of that scene worked pretty well. Um, you got to kind of feel for all the characters and whatnot. And I thought the soundtrack for most of the time, and like I'd say like 85-90% of the time, I really like the soundtrack. The use of it. I can only think of like Guardians of the Galaxy is the other one where they use the soundtrack better. But and they even use one of the Guardians of the Galaxy songs in this movie too. I noticed.
Which one was it?
Um, oh God, I can't remember which one, but I think it was the part in Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember hearing that song is when they're kind of like taking off in the jet, like taking off. I think it was toward the beginning of the movie, but they
Okay.
did. I know for a fact that they used one of their songs because I've watched that movie so many times, and the soundtrack. I just love the soundtrack. That in Suicide Squad when that song came on, I was like, oh my god, they took that from Guardians of the Galaxy. Um, but most of the other songs worked pretty well. Um,
I think I agree with you. The bar scene was one of my more favorite scenes because of Diablo. The whole I one of my favorite parts was Deadshot giving up when his daughter jumped in front of him, in
oh
front of Batman. I really like that scene right there. I love the part right before that where Batman's like, "I don't want to do this in front of your daughter," and I was like, "That's fucking awesome. That's so Batman right there."
yeah,
So I love those parts. Basically, most of the parts with Deadshot and Harley Quinn I liked. Diablo was good. Amanda Waller was good. Um, what else did I like in this movie?
that was kind of a Jersey Girl reunion there with Will Smith and Ben Affleck.
Yeah. Um, let's see what else. I wasn't a big fan of the soundtrack only because like it felt forced. I don't know why. It just
Mm.
felt forced to me. I mean, I like the songs. I just didn't like it in the movie itself. It just, I don't know. It, like you said, I immediately thought of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, I was like, okay, this is your Guardians of the Galaxy. This is shit. So
Yeah, it's been done before. In fact, a lot of what
um,
happened in the movie has been done before, many
basically
times.
everything else in the movie, I kind of disliked. There's a
Yeah, I
lot, I
mean, no, I'm
guess.
the same way. Like, so let's talk about you. You talked about Batman, so let's talk about the cameos. We already went pretty full into the Joker, so we don't need to talk about him anymore. But Batman, I know
I
they
liked his cameos.
I do like it, but I don't like it. And the problem is they should not have said a fucking word a year ago. They should have said nothing.
Oh yeah, and
And they
not showed
should
it in the trailer.
and they should not have showed him on the trailer. The car was sick. I actually saw a documentary on that car. There's a guy that
The Joker car, right?
designed
Yeah.
and built the Joker car. Yeah, it's his own car, and they saw it and they wanted it in the movie. Car is sick. I mean, it looks perfect for him. But yeah, the scene where he jumps on the car, I was like, I saw the trailer. I knew it was coming. I knew all that stuff was happening. I knew he was going to jump in the water. Most of his cameo was already, in the trailer, with the exception of him talking to Deadshot directly.
And that was my favorite part of the whole camp. Like the whole
Yeah,
Batman thing was
absolutely.
him.
I really like that because that is Batman. That is Batman for sure. The way that whole thing went down. But the rest of it was just kind of like throwaway to me. I was like, whatever. Like he's going after the Joker again. He jumps in the water, grabs Harley. That was kind of funny actually. She wakes up to like stab him, and he like smacks her in the face, knocks
Yeah.
her out. I thought it was kind of
That
cool.
was good. Yeah.
And then the worst cameo of all, the freaking Flash.
Oh my
Um,
god.
it like you had said before, I didn't really notice it too much before, but now it's very noticeable. He's not very subtle when he runs around. You could
Nope.
see his fucking ass. You see the lightning bolts and all that shit. It's like it's
Yep.
so ridiculous.
So basically, if I'm a villain, I don't need to set a bomb. I just need to trick the Flash into running really fast, and he'll destroy everything around him.
That's all you got to do. Put
Yeah.
tripwires everywhere. Put
Leave it to Zack Snyder to turn the Flash into a human weapon, where he uses his power and his lightning bolts just destroy everything around him.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. When you watch like the Flash TV show or even like, Smallville when Superman ran fast. I mean, there were times where like papers would fly and shit like that. But most of the
Well,
time,
that makes sense.
that it does make sense. But most of the time, it wasn't that. It was just whoosh, 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 fast.
Right.
a
Like
little-
when he wanted to do something really fast, he would just be in and out. But
Yeah.
the way that this Flash is, if he was in and out, you would fucking get electrocuted.
Yeah, basically.
So basically, anytime the Flash runs through Central City, you're gonna get electrocuted.
Yeah. And his suit looks ridiculous too. I was not a big fan of his suit.
I don't even. It doesn't look like the Flash. It looks like it looks like it doesn't look like any of the Flash, like the cartoon or anything. It basically is it. It looks like they're mimicking Injustice, Injustice series.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they've actually talked about that, or they might do some storylines and stuff from that. So anyway, the cameos, whatever, they did that to kind of tie in the universes, but I felt it could have been a lot stronger than that. But whatever, it is what it is. Kind of a missed opportunity. So
I don't really did well. I think they only did that because Boomerang is the Flash's one of his villains. So that's
Yeah.
why that happened.
yeah, I guess that makes sense. But they could have got
But
someone
again, like-
cooler, like Captain Cold, or someone cooler than fucking Boomerang.
But it doesn't. But again, it doesn't matter. Like I'm so fucking annoyed at the Flash. I'm like, well, if I was Boomerang, I'd fucking hate him too, because every
Yeah.
time every time this fucker runs around, he fucking blows the lights and shit.
Stay away from water. So this movie, they actually said ahead of time that there will be a mid-credit scene, and so
Yeah.
I made sure I waited around, and it didn't come. It didn't take too long before it popped up, and the scene pretty much involved like Amanda Waller, and then you see the back of the head of somebody, which right away you're like, well, that looks like Ben Affleck's head, so you're like, that must be Bruce Wayne, and they have a conversation. Did it seem like to you that she knew who the fuck Bruce Wayne was? She knew that he was Batman.
No, it didn't. It didn't seem like that. But I hated that entire fucking scene, and here's why. Because if you read the comics or even watch the cartoon or whatever, they hate each other. They fucking absolutely hate each other. And when I say they, I mean Batman and Amanda Waller.
Okay.
There's no world where Bruce Wayne interacts with Amanda Waller. They're on two different sides. Of the spectrum.
But she says a line, dude. She's like, you're looking mighty tired or staying up late or whatever your activities. She said some throwaway line, and I thought immediately, she knows he's Batman.
Amanda Waller does know that he's Batman a long time ago, but Amanda Waller has always been afraid of Batman, more so than anybody else in the Justice League. But he never talks to her as Bruce Wayne. It's always Batman, and Batman's always the one
And
that knows more than anybody else. But in this one, he didn't know shit because he was going to her for information, and she was going to him because she was
But
scared. That's
she
not
already
Amanda
had.
Waller.
I don't understand because didn't in the other movie he had a fucking email that told him who those people were? Why did he have to go to
Yeah,
her to begin with? It's
that's
like
the part that pisses me off because, like, look, you're missing the part where Batman or Bruce Wayne's the world's greatest detective. He does not go to the person that's trying to put a team together to kill all of his friends. And like in the it's not it in the comics and the cartoon, Waller knows who Batman is and doesn't want to say who and doesn't want to reveal it because as of right now, Batman's doing good, but she is putting all this stuff together. Like she's part of Cadmus and all those things.
mm-hmm.
Um, so she has always been on the side of, yeah, you guys can protect the Earth, but the second you step out of line, I'm going to have a contingency plan, which is basically what Suicide Squad was or is, right? But they don't interact like that, and that's the part where it's like,
I
did you even read the fucking comic books? Like
right.
that doesn't happen.
I was pissed off because after that scene was done, I'm driving home. I'm thinking to myself, that could have went so much better. It could have been like her having a glass of wine, and then he comes out of the shadows as Batman behind her. And
Yes,
and
that would be fucking awesome.
and then he's just like, don't do that again, you stupid. But it's like we'll take care of things from here on out. Instead, it's like, give me that file. I got this email from Lex Luthor. I already know all the characters, but let me look at your file and see what you know. I'm gonna go gather.
It's almost like they're doing the same thing that like fucking Clark Kent did in Man of Steel, where like you do all this stupid shit to not hide your identity.
Right. I mean, it was the worst like post credit thing. It made no sense at all.
Yeah. It didn't need to happen. It did not. Like, there's so many things here that are so like that scene is just as useless as like Slipknot in this movie.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Totally. It would have been much cooler if it was Batman. It'd have been much cooler.
If it was Batman like showing up in the like and Amanda Waller, like you just proved how badass like Amanda Waller is, and all of a sudden you just make her this whimpering woman at the end of the movie,
Totally.
trying to seek help from Bruce Wayne. Well, does Bruce Wayne make weapons for people? Like I don't remember Wayne Industries making weapons where it's not like Tony Stark.
He's like the DC's like Nick Fury all of a sudden. Like what's the point?
I don't know.
Like I'm assembling a team. He said everything short of like what Nick Fury said at the end of Avengers. I mean, it was like almost the exact same thing. And I'm like,
yeah, you're right. It should have went down the way you were talking about, where she's looking at files, like, and she's in a dark room in front of a fireplace. I can picture it in my mind, and she's drinking like whiskey, right? Because she's fucking badass, right? She's drinking fucking whiskey out of a glass that's been poured out of a glass like bottle, like one of those like special like crystal glass bottles that you see like, people have in their office and shit. And she's sitting there in front of the fireplace looking at all these files, and then all of a sudden, fucking Batman shows up and is like, disband this team now or I will. Like, and that's all that needed to happen. That's all that needed to happen.
Right.
And then he walks away from the shadows or something, and she smirks and says something like back, like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. And that would have been fucking awesome.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Not talking like, not Amanda Waller being like a pussy all of a sudden and going to Bruce Wayne for help. That doesn't fucking happen in the comics.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't ever happen. He's like, you look mighty tired. You look been busy at night. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, everybody knows who the fuck you are. Everybody knows you're Batman, I guess, in this universe. Everybody knows who everybody is. Let's just all have a big coming out party. So, well, that's the movie in a nutshell. And there's been a lot of controversy as far as like the last couple of days.
Let's go through our ratings first. So how many chainsaws you giving this?
Oh, man. I'd say we're doing it out of 5, right? I always forget. It's out of 5?
Yeah, it's out of 5.
Okay, yeah. I give it 3. I give it 3 chainsaws out of 5.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that this movie is a repeat.
You gave it the same rating as I think you gave Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I actually kind of like Ghostbusters a little bit more.
So how can you give this one 3?
I don't know. I don't think it's worth 2.5. I don't know. I mean, I think there's some things about it that I did enjoy that I thought were better than Batman versus Superman. So I feel like it needs a little bit of a higher rating, but it's still, if you look at it, that's still 60%, I guess. So I mean, can we do 2.75 chainsaws? I mean, to be honest, I don't.
I'm probably like 2.5 to 2 lightsabers for this movie.
All right, so I'm gonna go with 2.75. Let's just do that. But fucking, like
So
two
that's
lightsabers and a hilt.
well, yours would be two chainsaws and
And a
like
blade.
couple of and a chain.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's right there, like two. I think it's like right there with Batman v Superman. Even though I like this movie just a tiny bit better,
Yeah, me
mainly
too.
because but like I can't give it anything past that because this is an ensemble movie, and I didn't give a shit about anybody else.
Right.
You know, like I don't know. So
It almost feels like
So,
to
yeah.
me that again, when they announced this movie, I really didn't care. I was like, really, you're gonna do that? All right. You know, it wasn't like
I don't think I cared because it wasn't Marvel, and I'll get to the whole Marvel DC thing in a little bit when you were talking about the whole controversy shit.
Yeah.
But I didn't care because it was DC doing it because they've shown nothing since Nolan stopped making Batman movies.
right.
Like DC has not done anything good since then. So
Yeah,
I don't have any faith.
you
in what
made a
they're
really
doing.
good point there. I think you make a Suicide Squad when you've pumped out 4 or 5 really good films. I mean, Marvel made. Think of like if Marvel tried to put Guardians of the Galaxy out like right after Iron Man 2 or something like that. People have been like, what? Like, what is it? I mean, it was still really super cool, but they couldn't get to that without getting the other ones out first. And so Suicide Squad to me feels like they pulled the trigger way, way, way too early. It would have been a lot cooler if they had these people out for a while and then they built this ensemble cast with bad guys, which, you know, doing a bad guy movie is kind of a cool concept, you know, when you look at it on
Yeah,
paper.
it has never been done before.
You know, I was actually excited about a Sinister Six movie, which I hope they actually do. Now that Marvel has it, I'm fucking really excited if they ever do a Sinister
Yeah.
Six movie. So anyway, you brought a really good point out there. I think it just not as excited because of what they've put out so far, and because it's too early for something like this.
What's your diversity rating for this?
Well, so I would say definitely Jan Brady, but I mean, but I would go higher. But the thing is they treated some of the characters very poorly. Like Katana, I thought they treated poorly. I thought that Killer Croc was played by a black gentleman who's a fantastic actor, and he was completely wasted. I think Slipknot, he was American Indian. They wasted him. So the fact that they had all them in there, I'd say Jan Brady. But if they gave him a lot more to do and stuff like that, I could have gone higher. So
Yeah, I think you're kind of on point there. I think as far as the casting goes, I would probably say it's a plethora.
yeah,
But as far as the treatment goes, it's fucking really bad.
yeah, really really bad. I mean, they gave all the white people. I mean, with the exception of Will Smith, I guess, but they gave all the white people all the other shit to do, cool shit to do, I guess.
Well, the people that shine the most in this movie are Will Smith and Viola Davis. So,
Yes, and
who
Violet.
else?
I mean, both very good actors in this.
Even though they fucked up her character at the end of the movie. And then they
Yeah,
fixed it.
at the very end, they dropped the ball at the very end with her character.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely
you're-
dropped the ball.
You're
with
at
her.
the finish
She's a
line and you
badass.
trip.
Yeah. Or at you're badass for 99.9% of the movie, and then all of a sudden you're a pussy and you just ruin the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, what's her name said that a few times too. Harley Quinn said pussies a couple times.
That was pretty funny when she
I
called
think the
everybody
one time
pussy.
the one time it hit pretty good, and the second time I was like, whatever. So yeah, the controversy surrounding this film, obviously, from day one has been, a lot of people saying,
Well, since the ratings came out.
well,
Since the
yeah,
ratings
I guess
came
that's
out.
you're right. I guess that's the biggest controversy. I guess for me, like inner controversy is why you do this fucking movie right now. But you're right. The movie comes out, critics watch it, they pan the shit out of it. I think even faster and harder than Batman versus Superman. It's sitting at a 27% right now, and I think it took a few days for Batman v Superman to get there. This is the first day, so it got there pretty quick.
Yeah, it peaked at like 39%, I think. At least
Yeah,
Batman v Superman
for like
started at
2 minutes.
44 or something.
Yeah. And so the controversy is that a lot of people are calling foul on RT's rating system. So I have to kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a devil's advocate thing. I don't agree with the 27%, but I also want to say that this was not a good movie. Like, I'm sorry. Like, as far as like comic book movies go, it's again like I'd say 50%. As far as like a movie, it falls very short too. Like, if you didn't care, about superhero movies at all, and you just went into this thing as a movie, I think something like Guardians of the Galaxy plays so fucking well because of the way the characters were drawn and the story and all that stuff. This movie, it's just not a good movie. It's not good. There's a couple of good characters, a couple of decent scenes, but the rest of it was just like sitting there with a turd under your nose going like, what the fuck is this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm a comic book fan, and I was confused a lot of the time. And the same in Batman v Superman, I was confused, especially with the whole Flash coming through the Inception dream. I didn't know who the fuck that was. I'm like, read these things and I love these things, and I didn't know what was going on. So the fact that that's happening really is disconcerting to me. So the controversy is a lot of fans are calling foul, saying like, "Oh, Marvel's paying Rotten Tomatoes. Civil War was such a fucking boring movie. Like, how did that get 90 something percent and all that stuff?" Okay, I tend to agree a little bit, like a tiny bit. Civil War was like a really well done movie. I don't know, over multiple views, I'd want to fast forward to the action scenes, but it was so the story was so well done that you didn't need a main bad guy. You just needed like a catalyst, and they were fighting against each other, and it was done really, really well compared to like what Batman versus Superman did, fighting against each other. I mean, the whole Martha thing and the whole, kill Batman and I'll let your mom go bullshit. They could have thought of something way more diabolical or something than that. They made Lex Luthor out to be this pussy versus, in the Civil War, the bad guy, uh, whatever his name was, pulled all the string. It was much more menacing. That was more Lex Luthorish to me. In this movie, uh, I just didn't see any kind of protagonist. I mean, the antagonist was really weak sauce and all that stuff. But anyway, the controversy is people are calling foul on Rotten Tomatoes and saying that the rating system's bullshit and blah, 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 blah. Now, what is your take on Rotten Tomatoes? I mean, as a whole.
Well, like I said in the beginning, I think reviewers are just sick of seeing bad DC movies. And I would too. Like, I mean, how many like U ball movies do you have to go watch to like you're just like I'm not fucking watching his movies anymore, But because they're such big tentpole movies, they reviewers have to go watch this shit, right? And basically it's shit. And the problem I have with the rating system for Rotten Tomatoes is I can see if you're a big like DC fanboy, and when I say fanboy, I don't mean you just love it. Like you can love something and like not have to defend it to the end of the earth. Like
Mm-hmm.
we love Star Wars, but I'm not going to defend the prequels. Like yeah,
Right.
there's things I like it. Yeah, there's things I like in it, but like the prequels kind of sucked,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So as a whole, they kind of suck. There's things in there that in episode all of them, every single one of them, in 1, 2, and 3. There's things in there that I love that I've never seen before, but as a whole story, they're not great. Like it didn't really work really well. Um, so so I that if you said like what, I just love these characters, and I know the movie sucks, but I just love seeing them. Okay, I can respect that, but to argue that like
It's a good
as
movie and it's coherent,
yeah, that's
and it's like the
bullshit.
best thing ever.
That just makes me think that you're fucking stupid, because like so that's what we mean by fanboy. We don't mean fanboy that like because I'm a Star Wars fanboy, but in the way that we use it in the context, it's somebody who just defends DC to no end and
Right.
doesn't have any like. It's like they almost like I don't even know what it's like that you're just like you're defending somebody who's like a serial killer. Like you're the mother of the serial killer and you still defend that your child like to no
Right.
end. I mean that's going extreme, but like I don't know any other way to put it. Like where you're just defending it to no end. And these are the people that want Rotten Tomatoes heads because they feel like they're being DC movies are being
Biased.
shit on. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, exactly. But like you got to remember, like they didn't shit on any of the Nolan versions. You know, like they actually gave well, they don't give the higher ratings, but they kind of do an average of the ratings, and they gave like Dark Knight Rises like 85 or 88% or some shit like that. That was high for me because I didn't
Yeah,
really like the Dark Knight
yeah.
Rises too much. Um,
But The Dark
you
Knight,
know,
I mean, is still one of, I mean, the top three,
yes,
top two of all time.
right, for me anyway. And like you look back on like the Superman reviews, and granted, like that's from 1977, so they only have like a handful of reviews, and it's not like how it is now where everybody can review the movie. But that's rated like almost 100%, I think, the Superman Christopher Reeve versions, you
Okay.
know. And even the fucking Bryan Singer version, where all the DC fanboys fucking hated that movie, like Kevin Smith fucking hated Superman Returns, right? If you go look at that rating, that's like in the 80s,
Yeah. Wow.
like for Superman Returns. So like these DC fanboys are crying foul on all the recent shit. Cause like if you go back and look at all the other stuff, like was Rotten Tomatoes shitting on Dark Knight Rises or shitting on the Dark Knight? No. They're not even bringing up fucking Catwoman. Was Rotten Tomatoes shitting on Catwoman? No. That movie fucking blew. Like,
Yeah.
why don't we bring up? So you got to have like, so like I understand if you love something so much that you're like you want to, but have some like realism or like live in some like have some perspective. Like we've always said, like me and you, we're not a fanboy of anything major other than like Star Wars. Um, but if you want to get into like, we'll get into like arguments with other Star Wars people who will defend the prequels, and we won't
Right.
because they're just not great movies. Like none of them hold anything to A New Hope or even Return of the Jedi, let alone like Empire Strikes Back. So I would put Episode 7 before the prequels any day of the week.
Yeah. And,
Yes, it was a yes, it was a rehash of like A New Hope, but it was a better version than any of the prequels was.
I think, we've talked about that. If they hadn't made the prequels at all and then they came out with Force Awakens, you'd have been like, really? What the fuck is this? Like
Right.
some of it, some of it. There was a lot of
Yeah.
it that was awesome. But, the Star Killer base and all that shit. But they made the movie that they had to make. This to me feels like it's just everything that DC's doing just feels like a rush job trying to catch up with Marvel. And my whole feeling from day one was, why don't you just do what they did? Just take the time. Just take the time and develop your characters, and then do the ensemble piece later. Why do you need to rush so quickly? You know,
Yeah,
it,
no.
and their excuse probably is to be a cash grab. But let me remind like viewers or listeners out there that they had to make $800 million in order to break even on Batman v Superman. And in this movie, it's about the same. It's about the same with this movie. They've spent so much money on this movie and the marketing and all the investors and all that stuff that they have to make 800 million. I mean, how is this possible? You know what I'm saying? It's like, why? I mean, Marvel started out with intimate stories like with Iron Man. They didn't cost $200 million. They started
Yeah.
very slow and built up from there and built their character base and all that. I love Ben Affleck's Batman. I think that was the best choice that they made. But other than that,
I can't wait to see his version of his
yeah,
Batman.
I can't wait either. And even and again, I'm not a Marvel or DC fan, whatever. I'm a movie fanboy. I'm excited to see his Batman, even though Batman v Superman I
Because
didn't like. I didn't like Man of
because
Steel,
that
and I
guy
didn't like
because
Suicide
he's gonna
Squad.
because he's gonna direct it. Or
Yeah,
apparently he's gonna direct it.
I still have faith in that. I'm still excited. I'm excited to see Wonder Woman. I love the
Because
trailer.
that guy can direct. Like Affleck can direct. I don't
Yeah,
care. Like what any problems you might have with Affleck before with the whole J-Lo shit, I don't give a shit. The dude can act and he can direct. And
yeah,
he's shown that he can direct. And if I mean I'm more excited for his version, his Batman more than anything because of his track record as a director. You know what I mean? Like look at
yeah,
Zack Snyder's track record as a director. I have no fucking faith in that movie. Not
yeah.
only that, but that trailer that everybody's geeking out over, like when they put the Justice League thing on there to the music that they put it on there, I was like, is this another Suicide Squad?
Yeah, it felt like that too. It felt. I mean, in Batman's
Is
telling jokes, he's supposed to be the straight
like
person.
is that the direction you want Justice League to go in? Where you want people to forget about so much about Batman v Superman that you're gonna make a joke out of like the Justice League type thing, like not a joke, but like trying to make it more lighthearted. Like I don't want it lighthearted, but I don't want it dark as fuck either. You know, so it's I'm hoping that when Jeff Johns gets his first movie that he's in charge of, that he fixes this shit because like again, DC has the three biggest characters in all of comic books. I don't care what you want to argue. Spider-Man, I didn't grow up with Spider-Man. I grew up with Superman, Batman, and then I knew Wonder Woman. Okay, so if you want to argue anything, Superman and Batman always growing up. That's what I grew up with. That's what most people grew. That's what most kids grew up with.
Yep.
Spider-Man for me came later. You know, came much later for me.
For me, it was like in the late '70s. I remember Spider-Man a lot, but I watched Batman '66 every day when I woke up from my nap, and I watched
Superman. Batman was big for me, and then Christopher Reeves Superman.
Christopher
Those were the
Reeve's
two
Superman.
biggest things I grew up with.
Yeah.
So if anything, if anything, we are bigger like DC people than DC fans than Marvel fans. But it's because Marvel has put out so many good movies of late, or when they started, that it's like, okay, well, I guess I like Marvel now more because like, how can you argue that like? I mean, I guess people do argue it. That's what the whole controversy is about. About like, you know, who puts out better movies. Like, I mean, it's everywhere online where people just just have blinders on just because like they love this stuff so much that they're just blind to the fact that these just aren't really good fucking movies.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you know,
there's partial things that came to life that people are like geek out over. I geeked out over stuff that came out in this movie and Batman v Superman. There's stuff I'd never seen before, but it's very few and far in between. You know, it's just little glimpses of like, oh my god, like. So now that I really think about it, I sit here and think about it. Suicide Squad on paper should be a fucking knockout hit. It should be huge, and it is going to make a ton of money. I've heard it's supposed to make upwards of 125 to 140 million dollars, which that's
it's
fine.
Drop that crazy the
next week, right?
Week.
But see, I'm glad that it's going to make a lot of money because then okay, they'll keep pumping these things out and they keep making them. Hopefully, make them better because the critics, don't like these movies. They're for the fans. The fans love the movies. That's fine. But yeah, it doesn't bode well too much for a sequel because people will cry foul. They'll go see this movie and go, you know what? It really wasn't all that great, as great as I thought. And then when the second one comes out, it's like, I defy you. I guarantee you next year when Guardians of the Galaxy 2 comes out, that movie's going to blow a bunch of records. You watch.
Yeah.
Because the first one was so good that the second time around.
And now Chris Pratt is like one of the biggest movie stars on the planet.
So they kind of blew it with this. They had a chance. They could have made a lower budget movie with more character development and story, and I guarantee you the second one would have blew through the roof. But they just
let's put this out there. Just because this movie makes a shit ton of money or breaks even does not make it a good movie.
Right.
Look at Transformers is my argument to anybody who wants to say money makes a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a turd. You could dip a turd in gold, it's still a turd,
Right, exactly.
But anyway, so you guys out there, if you love this movie, that's great. I'm not gonna say you're a dumb asshole. I'm just gonna say, okay, I guess you like something that I didn't, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I will call you
a dumbass if you try to argue with me that it's a good movie. If you liked it, that's one thing. If you liked it because you think it's better than Civil War, you can go fuck yourself.
Oh wow, he's like David Ayer here. Didn't he say like fuck Marvel and they gave him a bunch of shit over that? I'm like, that's not very smart. That's like pissing off Muhammad Ali in the ring, going like you're a dipshit or something. Dude, you don't want to do that.
DC is so like take the last three movies that DC has put out after Dark Knight Rises, right? Mm-hmm. So what Man of Steel was like what 55%. What did Batman v Superman get? 27%?
27, something like that, yeah.
Right now, I just checked again. It's at 28% for Suicide Squad.
Okay.
You're flunking out of high school with those three grades.
Yeah.
Right? Marvel is going to Harvard. You're flunking out and packing French fries for Marvel.
Yeah, and some people would cry poo-poo over the ratings. I do agree to some point that the ratings I think are a lot lower.
Give it three for us. Give it 350s.
Yeah, it's still an F.
Yeah, you're still
not a
flunking.
good movie. Yeah,
you're still asking me if I want fries with that.
And we want these movies to do well. We really do. I want to keep seeing stuff. I just
Yeah,
really wish that.
just don't come here and say that they're fucking better than they're not good movies. Are they fun to watch? Sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think deep down inside for us, we're so pissed off because they're not good because we grew up with Batman and Superman.
Yeah, and I remember you said something about when episode 1 came out where you went to see that movie and the whole time you're going, I think I like this,
Yeah.
and
Because I wanted to. I wanted to because it was fucking Star Wars.
then you went and saw it, what, 4 or 5 more times in theater, which I did. I went and saw it
8.
several times, and I had the same.
I saw it 8.
I saw it 5 times.
8 times.
Yeah.
I saw it 8.
Kept hoping, like, maybe I missed something. Maybe, I just had that feeling. I'm old enough now where I don't do that anymore. But like with Batman v Superman, I've watched it now all the way through 3 times, once the theatrical and twice on the Ultimate Edition, because I saw it when we were live tweeting it, and then I saw it with my brother when he came over.
Yeah.
That movie gets worse and worse for every viewing that I watch it. I'm not joking.
Me too.
I really wish it would go the opposite way. Like some movies, like I've said in the past, like High Fidelity for me, I hated it when I first saw it, and then I fell in love with it. But Batman v Superman is just it's not a good movie. And I've even heard like, Kevin Smith saying like, I have to keep watching it. Like he's watched it so many times now. And I was like, well,
why? He
why?
wants to watch it until he
falls in love with it.
Watch it until
But see, right there, I mean, come on, that's kind of a red flag, right? That's like, saying like, I don't really like this girl, but I'm just going to keep going out with her until I fall in love with her. I'm just going to keep taking her out. That's not how it works, as far as I'm concerned.
Maybe this last time she won't use teeth.
Yeah. She's a lousy kisser. She's a lousy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
what happens at the end of the date? You end up with scars on your dick.
Yeah.
Every time.
There you go. Suicide Squad, another scar on the dick. Put that on the movie poster.
There's or put DC using teeth again.
Right. Some Jared Leto Joker teeth.
Oh my god. Oh god, Jared Leto.
Yeah, poor guy, man.
He's a good actor too.
I
was kind of surprised
he's
how
a fucking
annoyed
great
I was.
actor. He was just
apparently he just sucks as a Joker.
Something. He was channeling John Leguizamo, I swear to God. Just
from Spawn.
Yeah, exactly. He was the Violator. Totally. I was trying to figure that out. That's totally fun. Yeah. So before we take off, what do we hope? What's next for DC? What's happening? What's their next movie?
I think it's Justice League is the next one. Or no, Wonder Woman is the next one.
Wonder Woman. And they showed the trailer for that on the big screen finally. That's the first time I saw it on the big screen, and I dug it. I loved the music, and I think they showed a little too much. They showed a little too much action.
Didn't show too much, but I hope they don't fuck that up. Like I really hope that they know what the hell they're doing. I mean, because this Wonder Woman movie still falls under the before Jeff Johns. So I'm hoping, but I'm so skeptical.
Yeah, I guess they did finish filming that right around the time after Batman v Superman finished or came out, actually. So it's in post production right now.
This is the first. This is one of the very few movies, if any. Well, actually, Suicide Squad was the first where it's all villains because Marvel hasn't done an all villain movie.
No,
but this is the second. This is the first big movie that DC, if they nail it, they'll beat Marvel to the punch because Marvel has dragged their fucking ass getting a female comic book character centric movie out there.
I know they're talking about Black Widow, but I don't even think that's going to happen. I think Captain Marvel
happen first.
which is 2.5, 3 years away. It's a ways away.
I bet you she sets up Civil War 2.
Ah, that's very possible. They're gearing up for Phase 4 right now. They're talking about
because it's in Civil War 2. It's Iron Man. It's Iron Man versus Captain Marvel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be cool. I haven't read those comics yet. I'm slacking. I need to read Civil War 2. But so Wonder Woman is next. It comes out next June, and then after that is Justice League in November. That's part 1 or something like that. and
I
then
don't fucking know.
and then they have Aquaman, and then I think Part 2 of Justice League, and then Cyborg, and then Batman movie, and then Green Lantern Corps, and blah 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 all the way down the line. Which again, I'm going on record saying it's a big mistake. I think they should have focused on characters, and then 3-4 years down the road, have the Justice League and have it really
Well, what
count.
about after the first Justice League or the whole Justice League is done? I think that's the part where Jeff Johns starts to take over. So don't
Okay.
forget, even though Jeff Johns like just got the DC Entertainment title, he's head of DC Entertainment, which means he does all the movies and the TV shows and all that shit. He's in charge of all that stuff. He doesn't technically his footprint on the movies won't probably be done until maybe Aquaman
Yeah,
starts filming because Justice League has already started with fucking Zack Snyder in charge of that shit or whoever was before him. Um, so keep in mind out there that it's not Jeff Johns if Wonder Woman or Justice League sucks. It's the people before him.
yeah. I'm not excited about Justice League anymore, especially
Mm.
after they showed all that footage. The movie's what, a year and a half away. This is the other thing that drives me crazy about DC. Why do you need to blow your wad a year and a half right, away from the movie right
They're
now?
fucking in panic mode. And
Why
they're
do you
so
need to do
scared of
that?
pissing people off.
I just
I don't
don't
know.
get it. I think people will flock to the movies, especially the fan base will flock to the movies. But by showing all this shit, it doesn't, I don't know. It does a disservice, I think.
It's
Uh,
trying to, you know what it is? It's trying to make people like me and you try to like say, hey, we knew our mistakes from the first movie. Like it was all over Batman v Superman about
mhm.
mistakes with Man of Steel. I mean, how many times did they say at the end of the movie where like it's uninhabited or there's nobody there at that dock? You
Right.
know, like because they were trying to say like Superman killed a shit ton of people in Metropolis and they didn't give a shit. Like this is the problem with DC fanboys too is like they try to defend shit outside of the movie and it's like, well, you can't fucking do that.
Yeah,
You can't
you
like
can't assume
it's
and
like
all that shit.
yeah,
You,
it's like General Grievous, right? Like you can't like I remember going to that movie and the person that was going to the movie was like, why is that robot coughing? And I was like, oh well, in the cartoons, like Mace Windu did this thing, and the person looked at me and was like, well, how the fuck was I supposed to know that? I'm not a big Star Wars nerd. Like
exactly.
so you can't fucking do that shit. You have to tell the story. You have to tell the story in the movie. You can't tell outside shit and expect people to follow this stuff.
Right.
Like you have to tell that movie. Like people are trying to defend like, Batman. We're like, well, he did this, I'm like, well, when did he do it? He's like, well, I'm just assuming. Well, don't fucking assume it. Tell me in the movie where he does that. Like, well, he
Right.
doesn't. I'm like, well, then what the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like it
that
doesn't matter.
happens. It happens a lot. That happens a lot, and it's frustrating when you're talking to people like that. You know, they have all that knowledge in their head. They're like, "Well, this is what happens." Well, how the fuck should I know that? Like, I have no like. Tell the story that you're telling, and within the context of the movie, and then I can figure it out. Versus just like, oh well, yeah, this happens in the comic book, and so you're just supposed to know that. I'm like, yeah, sorry, I don't know. But
We've gone longer for Suicide Squad podcast than we've done for probably any other movie.
well, I think it's because it's just frustrating. Like I'm so frustrated right now with these movies. I want them to be good so bad. I really, really do. I'm not sitting here going like, oh, here's another DC movie. Fuck this thing. I'm not like that at all. I'm just like,
You're gonna have to wait like probably another 2 years before we get a decent DC movie.
yeah. I mean, now I've completely lost faith. I just don't care anymore. When Justice League comes out, of course I'm going to shell out my bucks and go watch it. But I'm not going to have any kind of like preconceived thing going in there going like this is going to be awesome. I'm just going to be like, all right, well, here's my favorite characters, in the movie. Hopefully it's good.
If Justice League ends up with like a D score, that's a win for us.
I guess. I mean, it's
so bad.
well, I mean, it's whatever you want to call it. It's validation, I guess. But before we sign off, I wanted to make a point also is that the Nolan Batman movies, and I went to Comic-Con a lot during the time when Nolan was doing the Batman movies. They never showed footage at Comic-Con. Never. Not one time. They didn't bring the movie there. They didn't bring the cast out. They didn't show scenes. Nothing. I think the only thing that they showed was the teaser for Dark Knight for The Dark Knight, where it was just the bat and you hear the Joker in the background and you hear Alfred saying part of the story.
Perfect.
Some people just
Perfect.
that's all they showed. Some people like to
One
see
of the
the
best
world burn.
teasers ever.
Yeah,
One of the best teasers ever.
they showed that at Comic-Con and that was it. Warner Brothers was in there promoting that film. I was like, "Oh my god." I mean, people wanted it to be there, but it created such a buzz that a year went by and when the movie came out, people fucking flocked to that movie. It's one of the biggest selling movies of all time and
You know what
greatest movies of all time.
DC needs to do what like Star Wars did and get somebody who knows how to treat this stuff.
Marketing.
Well, I'm talking about directors. Stop
Oh,
getting
yeah.
like I was actually more positive on Suicide Squad because of the director that they got was
Mhm.
David Ayer. But of course DC somehow fucks that up too. Because they need to get a director like they need to get like a Joss Whedon. They need to get somebody who lives in this world and understands it, and like give somebody like Joss Whedon a chance. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, because
for the
see,
longest time, like Joss Whedon wasn't mainstream. He was like, he did Buffy. He was one of us. He was a nerd that just happened to make cool shit that
Right.
nobody really knew about. And then all of a sudden, he becomes this giant major director because he, gets to direct the first Avengers movie and fucking nails it. But they're getting like, but if you look at his history of work, look at everything that guy has ever done. You can see it in the Avengers, right?
hmm the story,
Even
the
the f-
dialogue, the character development,
even
all that.
even the faults that he might have sometimes with maybe too much dialogue, they're in that movie. Now look at Zack Snyder. Look at his entire body of work before he got Man of Steel.
hmm
It's not great. He's the two best movies he ever did, three best movies he ever did, um, basically came from somebody else. They were already there, right? So he redoes his first. The big first thing I see him do is fuck
The 300.
day of no the Day of the
Oh,
Dead,
he
or
did the
Dawn
zombie,
of
the
the
zombie
Dead.
movie. Yeah, that
Dawn
was
of the
pretty
Dead.
decent. It was pretty decent.
That was better than the original. He does a phenomenal job with that. Then he comes out with 300, right? And I was like, oh fuck, this movie kicks ass. But it's right there. He just pulls it from the story is completed. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to make his own shit up. He basically just have to bring the panels to life, right?
Right, visuals.
Then he does The Watchmen, which a lot of people kind of didn't like. I did like it because that movie, that graphic novel is really dense and really difficult, and I thought he did a really good job with that.
Yeah, they said that movie, that book, they've been trying to adapt for years. They said it was unfilmable, but he did a fantastic job.
So
But
then he goes off and does his own thing, right? Sucker Punch, I think, was his next movie.
ugh, I've never
Right?
watched
Was
the
that
whole
it?
thing. I've never seen the whole thing. I can't do it.
So basically, that movie is the problem with all of his DC movies. Is it's just one set piece to another. It's all it is. There's no substance to the movie. Why? Because it's not predetermined for him. There's nothing that he can go watch and read where he does a Batman v Superman.
hmm
There's nothing that he can do that does this version of Superman and Man of Steel. He has to look, it's his vision from scratch, and he fails at it. So when you look at his body of work, like, yeah, this guy does fucking great action sequences, but what happens between the action sequences? Like in those movies like Sucker Punch? Nothing. You don't give a shit about anything. When you look at like Joss Whedon stuff, look, there's no action set pieces to look at because all his shit is based on dialogue and character development, right? So comic book movies only work when you give a shit about the characters. And those are the most successful ones that we've seen so far. When you
Right.
care about the characters, the movies usually do very well. I don't care about any of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Honestly, that's it right there. I mean, even down to Marvel's, like Ant-Man. I mean, down to that movie, there's a lot of character development. You care about that character. That character pops up in Civil War, and you're just giddy and excited, you know. And don't. I mean, the only excitement I had in this was when I saw Batman, talking to Deadshot. I thought, oh, that's cool. That was the only time.
Yeah, but that's like, again, it's not Zack Snyder directing, but the problem with these movies is like it's like these like geek out moments, right, are supposed to carry the entire film. Like there's all these like Easter eggs, there's all these like little set pieces, there's all these geek out moments, But that's all it is. It's just like stitched together geek out moments. That
Yeah.
doesn't make a good film.
That's true. I didn't even feel like that in this one either. I didn't geek out a lot at all. I didn't,
me
and
neither.
that's disappointing. So if you're gonna have a movie without substance, you better have some fucking good, cool shit happen to make you like forget about all that other shit. But they didn't even have that. Like David Ayer's a good director. Like I saw Fury, fucking awesome movie about a tank, and its crew, really good movie. So when he's
But he also did what did he do before that? He did
there was something else.
fuck.
I can't remember.
There's
It was another decent movie. It was another decent movie. I remember that. But
it was End of Watch.
oh yeah. That was fantastic.
I love that movie.
Such a good
And
movie.
then he did I don't think he directed Training Day. Maybe he
No,
was a writer.
that was fuck.
he was
for,
he was
for
a, he
Qua
was a
or whatever.
writer.
But see,
He was a writer.
where he's strong in this movie was some of those, like with the military sequences and stuff. But they were just normal military sequences that you see all the time. There wasn't any moment in the movie.
I don't
where
know
I
if we're
flipped
ever
out.
gonna. Yeah, but I don't know if there's any time we're gonna find out exactly what his vision was versus what DC wanted.
Oh yeah,
with.
we're probably never going to see what his version is. I think they looked at it and went, "Oh, this is too serious. We need to liven it up, humor and all that bullshit." Which, whatever, that still didn't fix the problem. Character development, story, So
We need to end it. You know what we need to do is we need to end this fucking podcast. This is our longest podcast ever, and it's about fucking Suicide Squad.
Yeah, we need to commit podcast suicide right now. So anyway, that's Suicide Squad in a nutshell. We weren't really too keen on this movie, but
Even though we spent almost 2 hours talking about it.
it's out there, whatever. It's part of the DC universe now. It's canon, unfortunately. So here's to hoping. I mean, we have a whole year away till Wonder Woman. Hopefully that's gonna,
Fingers crossed for Wonder Woman.
yeah, fingers crossed. It's got a woman director. Yeah, we'll see what happens. So it should be good. But anyway, that's that's a wrap. That's episode 39 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic,
Till next time, folks, chew on that.
later.